get married, buy a house, have kids. If you can do it in that order, statistically, you're going to win.
Another government story, shocking.
I'll interview you on this one if that's okay.
All right.
So this week, they floated the idea of going to a 50-year mortgage.
Mm-hmm.
Most Americans are probably on an adjustable rate mortgage or a 30-year mortgage would be my guess. And so this would open the opportunity for new people to enter into the housing market, but especially younger generations. Your background is business, you like finance and investment, and you're a real estate agent, and you're a young home buyer. So 50-year mortgages, good idea, bad idea. What would your recommendation be?
Great idea. I love 50-year mortgages.
You said that so quick.
I know you're going to attack me.
Well, not attacking. I'm just irritated with a 50-year mortgage. I think I'm with you, but I'm irritated.
Yeah.
So go ahead.
I love it. So historically, FDR, Trump referenced FDR. FDR added the 20-year mortgage, and home ownership went from 40% of people to 65% of people.
What was it before that? Before the 20-year, what was called?
40% of people owned a home. Okay. And then after he did the 20-year mortgage, that jumped 25% to 65% of Americans owned a home. I'm a big believer in Americans need to own homes.
Amen.
Corporations are buying up homes very, very quick. We're seeing cash deals even in Arizona very, very quick when no one else can buy because the corporations want to buy up all the homes. If you want to get into conspiracies, they want to control what the average person pays for rent. So rent control, they'll just decide it's $2,500, $3,000. And if you can't buy a home, you can't compete.
And it's not a conspiracy that these companies are doing it. It's happening in
massively.
Most of the houses being bought are being bought by a few different companies.
Well, many of them are foreign investors owning American real estate, which is a whole nother issue.
Yeah, terrible. All right.
You talk about a stronghold. That's very much a stronghold of other countries coming in and buying our homes up. I think inflation is awesome in real estate. It's going to happen. The government's going to keep printing money. I'm not thrilled at that, but it's reality. We saw in COVID, all of a sudden they added 25% supply of money into the system, and no one thought inflation was about to happen. And then it went off the charts. As a new home buyer, we had bought a very average home price at like $350,000. We bought our first house, $350,000. COVID happens. Within a year, that house went up by 40 or 50% in value.
Wow.
Not because I was so smart and a great investor, because inflation just shot into the economy. Everyone moved to Arizona during COVID, lots of things. But home prices across the country did that during 20, 21, 22. So your house will grow with inflation. Your mortgage won't. Your mortgage is you're going to owe the same amount of money, and the money just got a lot cheaper. So a lot of people don't realize that inflation actually helps your debt quite a bit. It cheapens it.
So for first-time home buyers, there's a lot of young adults that don't understand this. They're looking at the market and the terms, but they don't understand that first-time home buyers, completely different set of terms. Maybe explain the benefits for a first-time home buyer.
Totally. You can get a low interest rate. Your parents might tell you need 20% down. Sure, that's awesome, but you don't need that. The market, especially in America, is going to keep going up because of inflation. If there's a 50-year mortgage, the market's going to jump. We're going to see an aggressive climb here because it means more people can buy homes. But there's tons of government programs, and I mean, they're going to give it out to a lot of people. So why not let you be one of those people? They will pay a lot of your down payment. I had a young couple the other day. The government gave them $30,000 that's forgivable in 3 years if they hold that home. Well, the government's just going to give them free money. And you might have my wife being one of these, might be like, we're not taking money from the government out of principle. They're going to give it to someone. Just apply for the grant, take the grant, get the forgivable loan, and start building a legacy. But you can buy a home, a first-time home buyer, and especially in Arizona, it's expensive. So a lot of other states, it's going to be lower. But you could spend $8,000 to $15,000, and you could be in a first-time house, and the government will fill the rest of that down payment. And
you get a lower interest rate, perhaps, as a first-time home buyer.
Yep, lower interest rate. So a lot of great benefits. It's not that hard to buy a house. I always thought it was. I think it's one of the easiest wealth-building tools for a young person because you're going to pay rent, you're going to do something. It forces you as a young man or a young couple to go start investing, and over the long term, that home is going to go up. what disagreements do you have with a 50-year mortgage, or what do you wrestle with a 50-year mortgage?
So if we were having this exact same conversation 10 years ago, 50 years ago, 100 years ago, and now all of a sudden we're like, hey, what do you think about a 50-year mortgage? I'm like, I think it's a terrible idea. I think it's awful. And it's because we're such a prosperous country that a 30-year mortgage or a 15-year mortgage, typically the average home buyer could afford it if they just minded their P's and Q's.
Yep.
And the only reason we're having this conversation now is because wild, reckless overspending is impoverishing our nation. So now it becomes a necessary evil to push out a 30-year mortgage to a 50-year mortgage so that we can buy them up before BlackRock does. And so I hate that that's happening, because 10 years ago, 50-year mortgages was a bad idea. And so now it's just a stopgap.
Yep.
But what it's doing, though, it's a realistic, sober approach of where we're at right now, a 50-year mortgage. So I'm on board with you.
Yep.
But here's what I hate. It's admitting that we are certainly impoverished.
Yep.
We're having to compete with these major corporations doing a really shady thing because they're going to jack rents up. And what else are you going to do? So you might as well do it. But I know the American consumer they are going to be a much bigger debtor for their entire lives now. They're never going to pay off their home. Then you could say, well, you could get a 50-year mortgage, but pay it like it's a 30. And people reason that, and if you could actually do it, that'd be great. But almost no one does. I think you guys would. And like 2 of you people out there would do that. Nobody else is going to do that. It's the same reason why Dave Ramsey is so against anyone having credit cards. It's because you'll say, well, the points and I'm doing this and cash back actually come out ahead. And you're right, technically on paper, but consumer habits is you're going to not do it and you'll be irresponsible. So you're going to get a 50-year mortgage and you're going to pay it for 50 years. You're not going to pay it off early. So you're going to be a slave to the lender. And if you get a 30, so right here, you had kind of a example charted out.
Yep.
So a $400,000 home with a 20% down payment and assuming a 6.5 or 6.6% interest rate. And a 30-year term, that's $2,040 a month. If you paid that out over the life of the loan, the cost of money for a $400,000 home will end up being you'll spend $661,000 on that over the course of 30 years. So $400,000 home, you paid $661,000 over it. And I'm like, that's a 30-year. What happens when you go 50-year? And mind you, you're only jumping in a 50-year mortgage from a $2,040 payment, you're falling down to an $1,822 payment. So really, it's going to save you, it's going to save you $200-ish a month.
Yep.
And what's it cost? I'm like, it saves me $200 a month. Well, what does it cost you? You're going to pay an extra 20 years. And at the end of it, you would have paid almost $1 million for a $400,000 home. That's wild. That's really expensive.
But it's better than renting.
Yeah, I agree. It's better than whatever. But if we could just not spend so wildly, because all the dramatic government spending is causing this. We're in this problem because of a $39 trillion debt in runaway inflation. And so now we're talking about 50-year more. I'm like, hey, come on. How about get in perpetual debt for multiple generations because your government can't curtail spending? Yep. We're talking about a 50-year mortgage because government spending. So if we do a 50-year mortgage, okay, I get it, necessary evil, but let's cut the head off the beast of government spending, or before you know it, we'll be talking about a 70-year mortgage. And it's because of the government's fault. And I don't like it.
Okay, John, but here's my pushback. What is that house worth in 50 years?
I get it, that it's still worth it.
It's a $4 million house, and that's average home price in 50 years. So
maybe so. We'll see.
I know.
Of like,
they're not making any more land.
What fun depressions await us?
I know.
What fun government features await?
Every 100 years, and the last one was in the 1920s. So giddy up.
Because the trend of all this government spending is ultimately a complete evisceration of our economy, where the Marxists own anything, and that house you worked on for 40 years is seized by the state anyway. That's where all of this eventually lands. So
the wildness of the debt. There is a debt of $330,000, if memory serves me correct, for every American taxpayer.
Correct. Yeah.
Which means whether or not you have a mortgage, the government took one out for you.
That's right.
You owe $330,000 in just debt.
Yeah.
So, Landon, to wrap up this one, so 50 year, did they have to, because a lot of young people are saying, like, 50 years, do they have to pay it for 50 years, or can they pay it off quicker? Can they refinance it down the road?
You can pay it off very quickly. You can refinance it down the road. I think when interest rates are high, something like this makes a lot of sense to me because interest rates will be low again at some point. It was wild to me. Our first house, I'm making this big payment. To me, it's $2,200 a month. That felt like everything for Ashley and I as a newly married couple. And then we sold it 2 years later and we made 10 grand a month living there. And I was like, how does this math make any sense?
That's great. No.
It was wild to see the appreciation when you've put this much money into the house and the equity jumps by this much. That's a great return on investment. And to the point earlier, okay, you're saving a couple $100 a month. Not a big deal for you guys. For somebody that's making $20 an hour, $18 an hour, trying to save up. If somebody's investing $200 a month and actually being a good steward, so you do have to be wise, but if somebody takes that, invests that at an average rate of return at that 50-year mark, it's almost $4 million as well. So if you're a smart steward and you're a godly man and you do something like a 50-year mortgage and you take the extra money and you invest it or pay down your house faster, you're going to be in a great position in 10, 15, 20 years. If you're just trying to use the government and push out your debt and things like that, that's not helpful. But you can redeem a lot of the government programs. And as young Christian men and women, we need to be good stewards and smart in these decisions we're making. And you need to actually chart it out, look at investment charts and look at your next 50 years and decide where you want to be. It was something me and Ashley did very early in our marriage. Where do we want to be at 75? And what do we want to leave to our grandkids? Yeah. And you just reverse engineer it. And I just see things like this as tools to do that. And Trump is much wiser than anyone gives him credit for as far as the economy. He knows how to combat these things. He knows what tariffs will do. He's not like throwing hand grenades and like, hopefully this stuff works. He's a very good businessman. If there's something that you should trust him on.
Who would have thought a billionaire would have been good with money, though? I didn't see that coming. Did you see that coming?
Yeah, and a socialist who's never held a job can run New York. So
that's a great pivot.
Yeah, well, let me give one hack, and then we'll move on. This is a dad hack for the older people that are watching this. Number one, you want to get your credit score and keep your credit score high, and then two, a lot of the myth when it comes to home buying for young families and young couples is we've got to get a credit card. We need to get our credit score. No, you don't. Here's a dad hack. If you have a good credit score, you can put your kids, you can put other people on as an authorized user.
Mm-hmm.
So like when our kids got married, like I was talking to one of my daughter-in-laws and she's like, I got to get a credit card because, I need to get a credit score so that when we go to buy a house, we'll have a good credit score. I said, no, sweetheart, I love you. Don't do any of that. I will make you an authorized user on my account, which means then when they pull your credit score, you get my credit score.
Well, that's great. Yeah, that's all.
So you don't need a credit card and you don't need to play the credit card game and you don't need to take any risk. You don't need to go out and get a car loan and start doing these really foolish things. Older generations can really help if they can borrow your credit score and get a first-time home buyer opportunity. Now you're unlocking generational wealth for your kids.
Yep. And the one other thing you did that was awesome, and hopefully I'm not oversharing here, but you were willing to match a down payment for us up to a certain number. And you always talk about give your inheritance to your kids early, because 10 grand for me right now is much better than 100 grand in 30 years.
Well, in 30 years, let's say I live 30 years. In 30 years, if you really need the inheritance,
I failed.
You didn't do a good job. When a couple really needs their inheritance is at the starting line. Like we want to buy a house, we want to have kids. So my goal is always like, if you can and you're older, get as much of the inheritance to the kids as early as possible if they're wise and good stewards, and then they're going to multiply that. But in 30 years, you don't need help with your first home.
No.
Can I ask you a question on that? So some folks will have the attitude, older generation, of if you just give them money or inheritance, you'll spoil them. And there's some out there like, hey, I got them to 18, let my last check bounce, I'm cashing out, no inheritance.
Yeah, a wise man leaves an inheritance for his children's children. That's Proverbs. And so The goal is to pass on to your children and grandchildren as much money, as much blessing, as much wisdom, as much support as you possibly can. And there are two kinds of children. There are those who are bad stewards and those who are good stewards. And so give everything you can after you've trained your child to be a good steward. And so like my thing with all of our kids was like, get married, buy a house, have kids. If you can do it in that order, statistically, you're going to win.
Yeah.
Okay.
Like you're going to play the long game and win. And so I have no problem being generous toward children that are good stewards. So if they're not a good steward, then teach them stewardship, right? And incentivize them to be good stewards. Don't control them, but like, hey, if you will raise money for a house, I will match you dollar for dollar as one potential example. Then the kid is like, and here's what it costs, and here's first time home buyer, and I'll let you borrow my credit score. Any smart kid is going to be like, well, I'm going to do that because I didn't understand that, but my dad just set me up for the win.
You're a good dad, Mark Driscoll. Good job.
Thanks for watching this video. It's a great honor to help you learn the Bible. Go ahead and subscribe to the channel, and I promise you there'll be more to come.